Hello and welcome along once again to It'll Be Alright in the 90s, the podcast that has just been dug up after 30 years and is now covered in dirt, moss and water because our 1970s presenters didn't seal us properly. Not entirely sure how that works, but that's the truth. I'm Stu Joslin and joining me as always is Alex Greenwood. Greenie on a very, very stuffy and muggy evening. Perfect conditions for podcasting, I'm sure you'll agree. How are you doing?
All I can say is thank God we did that warm weather training
Yeah.
over our break because it's allowed us to be prepared for this sort of weather as
hmm
we experience yet another heat wave. We always seem to record when there's a heat wave. I don't know how that's possible.
I remember doing an episode with Will Hodgson when it was particularly warm.
Yes,
Two,
I
three
remember
years
that.
ago, and that was insane having to
Yes.
podcast in those conditions. But like you say, Jeff and the guys were very kind in sending us off for some warm weather training, and we're much better prepared this time around. As you may have gathered from that intro, we have another returning guest building their perfect 90s time capsule this evening. More of that in a second, but first of all, a word for our sponsor this evening, who is Midland Bank. If you open a Midland Live account, you can get money off CDs, Dulcis shoes, BSM driving lessons, and Sega games. You must be under 21 and you must open the account before the 31st of January 1993. So many thanks to our sponsors this evening, Midland Bank, the listening bank.
It's nice to have a financial institution as a sponsor, isn't it? I know Jeff always gets very keen
Mm.
when they're the sponsors. So that's a little bit of, gravitas to the podcast, I think.
No doubt there's something going on behind the scenes there that we're not completely aware of. I'm sure of that. Did you ever have one of those sort of teenager, young adult bank accounts, or did you go straight in with a proper adult's current account at the age of 9?
No, I had a smart to save, which then became a smart account with Nationwide right from the very early days when you had, a little book that you had to
hmm
bring in and they would stamp or write stuff in it to tell you how much money you had in your account. Pre-internet banking, of course, which, yeah, as with so many things from the 90s, is quite hard to remember now what that was like to not know what was in your account without going down to a bank machine and putting your card in. Um, but yeah, I never had a Midland one, but I did have a nationwide account.
hmm Halifax Little Extra Club here. I remember getting a
Mm,
yellow piggy bank in the shape of a house, so more of a house bank, I suppose, or even a bank, maybe.
yeah.
But yeah, many happy memories of, like you say, heading down there to find out how much I had. My dad opening the account for me and depositing £5 in there, and going from there. But then I eventually had to move away from Halifax when they closed their Caution branch due to the lack of banking facilities in the town.
Of course, a lot of people had those pigs, didn't they? From NatWest, was it NatWest that did the pigs?
That's right.
My friend from school, Matt Cox, I know he was very proud of his full collection of the family of pigs from NatWest. Probably several thousand active listings on eBay right now with the full set on there.
Well, since we began discussing this, all I've been thinking is, can I get hold of a yellow little extra club bank on eBay? So, guess where I'm going as soon as this episode's finished.
Well, let us know how you get on in the next episode.
Of course. Time to have a look in the postbag and on the bulletin board in that order. Alex, what have you got over there?
The first thing I wanted to say is related to our last episode on, actually, no, it wasn't our last episode, it's the episode before last on summer holidays. And I was talking about the summer holidays with a friend recently, and I referred to it as a 6 weeks holiday. And it
hmm
turns out they'd never heard it referred to as that. And then another friend who was there also hadn't. One of these people was from Bristol, the other one was from South London, and neither of them had ever heard of the 6 weeks holiday as a term and had never really registered that it was even a 6 weeks holiday. They just thought it was a long holiday over the summer. But you must have called it the 6 weeks holiday as well, right?
Yeah, definitely 6 week holiday. Yeah, it must have just been a Wiltshire thing then, I'm guessing.
Yeah, or maybe it just was a random division and some people did, some people didn't. But it was always, yeah, very distinctly 6 weeks, and you could start counting them down from that first Monday. How many weeks left, 2 weeks left, 3 weeks left, whatever. Yeah, so very much 6 weeks holiday for us.
You get down to one day left, you're in a world of trouble.
Oh God, yeah. You've already been to Smith's to get your new pencil case, and
Oh dear.
because all the back to school adverts start in mid-July, don't they? So you've already had to come to terms with that. And it is the absolute worst, most melancholy episode of Antiques Roadshow of the year would be that final
Hmm.
Sunday before going back to school, wouldn't it?
I remember a really horrible advert for some stationery firm, Staples maybe, where the music was "It's the most wonderful time of the year," and there was a parent going around Staples, like really happily chucking all bits of stationery in a trolley, with the kids looking really glum in the background. And again,
Yeah.
these adverts were being shown in like June. I think, for
Yeah.
Christ's sake, at least have a couple of weeks, please. Just
Yeah.
chill out.
Yeah. Yeah. Very insensitive.
Well, we, of course, are very interested to know what you referred to the school summer holidays as, whether it was the 6 week holiday or something else. Please do get in touch and let us know. There must be more 6 week holidays out there, surely.
You'd have thought so. Yeah, there must be. But I'm just interested in the regionality of it. Was it just this corner of Wessex, or was it, yeah, everywhere?
I'm afraid we have to go to Correction Corner.
Oh, God, well, now what?
Yeah, I know. This again stems from our summer holiday episode and our discussion of the vintage match of the day episode
Hmm.
that I brought to the table and asked you to watch.
Yeah.
Listening back to the episode after it had been released, I realised I made two huge errors, which actually reveal themselves if you listen to the commentary or actually watch the clip. First of all, the Everton free kick isn't inside the 6 yard box; it is on the 6 yard line because, of course, a free kick, indirect or direct, cannot be given inside the 6 yard box,
That's
as
what I
you correctly
thought.
state.
That's what I thought.
So that is why the free kick was taken on the 6 yard line, despite the offence having taken place closer to the goal than that. So again, strike one for me. I do apologise. And secondly, on the near Norwich own goal, I accused Ian Butterworth of being the perpetrator, and if you listen to the commentary, it's actually Ian Culverhouse. Now,
Hmm.
I don't know about you, as a Norwich fan, I'm always getting those two mixed up, and I don't even support Norwich.
Um, I no, I'm afraid I have a very distinct image of both those players as separate entities, so I can't claim to be guilty in that
Okay,
respect.
do you have a mnemonic or something to help you remember?
Um, for what it's worth, Ian Butterworth and
Safest houses.
Ian Culverhouse
There
is
you go.
yeah, there you go.
So apologies to 90s football aficionados who may have been listening to that episode and wondering what I was on about. I will, of course, go and have a word with myself in front of the mirror.
Actually, before we move on from those players, I did message you maybe over a year ago with some suggestions for ex-Norwich players' autobiography titles, and I think one of them was "For What It's Butterworth" by Ian Butterworth, "The Life and Times of Ian Butterworth."
Well, I don't
Is
know
it?
why you're not getting out and ghostwriting these,
I
surely.
know. I should. Yeah, I'd get in touch with him.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, listen, it can't hurt, can it?
No.
Least they can do is say no. That's the worst that can happen.
I have a message from friend of the pod, Lay, here, who is referring to our recent episode, our collaboration episode with Now. That's what I call bullshit, where we did an episode on Now 43, was it?
43 or 44, can't quite
Yeah.
remember. One of those.
And this is in relation to the Backstreet Boys and also Hanson. And Lay says, love the mention of Mbop. It's up there with my favorite pop songs of all time, but I agree Hanson don't count as a boy band. Actually, this was in relation to the discussion we had about your favorite boy band song. And obviously, Dan was sort of confused that we had a favorite boy band song. And as it turned out, he was the only one that didn't. Um, but yes, she points out her love of Umbop. I did ask her what she thought of the follow up single "Where Is the Love," and she said it's not as good as Umbop, but it is still a big jam. And then she also points out this version of "I Want It That Way." This is the reimagined version, also by Backstreet Boys. I don't know if it was released at the same time or if it came out much later. I think it maybe came out a couple of decades later, actually. But she said she very much got into this song in recent years, and the harmonies still slap. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but we'll try and put in a clip here. If we don't, it's because of copyright, but we'll put a clip in here and see what people think.
If we can't clear it, I'll sing a bit of it and put it in. How's that?
Okay, that would be very much reimagined, wouldn't it? I also asked her who her favorite member of Backstreet Boys was, and she said, "Oh my, what a question! I think Nick and AJ were probably my favorite. Nick because he was dreamy, AJ because I thought he was cool. Brian often spoke the most in interviews, so I kind of thought he was important. Maybe I just wanted to be his friend. Kevin and Howie D were less on my radar. Surely Howie wasn't anyone's favorite. Poor lad. Do you have a favorite member of the Backstreet Boys, Stu?
I think so. I think it is Kevin, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why. I've just always had an affinity for Kevin. Maybe I'm the only one.
He's very much the Leonardo of no, sorry. That's not what I meant. He's very much a Donatello of the Backstreet Boys.
It must get that correct. Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Or the Jason Orange. Yeah, that sort of yeah. when he
Hmm.
was the background Backstreet, I suppose, wasn't he?
Well, the backgrounds have got to have some love as well.
Yeah.
Going back to that new version of I Want It That Way, I listened to it just before we came on, and I really liked it, I have to say. I think it's
Mm.
a really fresh take on obviously a classic song. Yeah, no, more power to their elbow.
Yeah, yeah, I like it as well. I think it's just a timeless melody, and however you're going to do it, it's always going to sound good.
I have one more thing to report which emerges from our USA 94 episode.
Mhm.
You may remember during the recording of the episode, we spoke about the goal collapsing at the Mexico versus Bulgaria game. And then we had some conversation about whether a swarm of bees had settled in one of the stanchions in one of the goals at USA 94. So I was looking this up and I couldn't find any real evidence to support that memory. But then I did find some concrete evidence. And what I'd like to do is refer you back to July 2021 and Series 1, Episode 5 of a little podcast called It'll Be Alright in the 90s, where the presenters covered said subject. And here's what they had to say. It reminded me that I needed to come back to a point and clarify something. I don't know if you remember, but I stated that I had a memory of in the USA 94 World Cup, a match had been delayed because there had been a swarm of bees or wasps landing
Yeah,
in the corner of one of the goals.
yeah, I
Um,
remember.
so, having researched this, I can confirm that that did not happen.
Okay.
But what did happen, and it was in a game that involved Jorge Campos, who we mentioned on that episode, and I think we're probably going to mention again on this episode, will be
Yes,
revealed later on.
yes.
What happened in the game between Mexico and Bulgaria, which I think was a knockout game, there was a big sort of goal line, goal mouth melee, and a lot of players fell into the net and actually brought the posts down. So the game
Ah,
got delayed while new goalposts were brought onto the field and put in place. So there you go. That's just something that's been bugging me, and I thought I'd need to clear up from episode 1 there, so everybody can rest easy now. The podcast has finally eaten itself, Alex.
we are running round in circles on this podcast, aren't we? Dear God.
I have to
Why?
thank my friend Tom Carter, Sausage Roll Tom, for pointing that out. He's a new convert to the podcast and who just happened to be listening to Series 1, Episode 5, which was the episode with John Chalice driving the Ferrari really slowly,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
just happened to mention that we were talking about a swarm of bees landing in a goal. And that was the day after we'd recorded the USA 94 episode. And I
Oh,
could
that's so
not
weird.
believe the serendipity. So I thought
Yeah.
I'd dig out the clip and we could solve our own mystery.
I don't understand how the goal falling down because of a goal mass scramble turned into a bee's nest, though. There must be some kernel somewhere
Yeah.
where the bees came from, unless it's just a lot of people in a net looks a little bit like a swarm of bees.
I think it
Beyond
must
that,
have happened, but just maybe at some other tournament, some other game, some other time, and I just linked it to USA 94.
yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. But yeah,
Okay.
there you go. We were talking about USA 94 and Jorge Campos as far back as episode 1, it would appear, because that's what we're referring to in the clip there, is that we're clearing up a
Yeah.
misunderstanding from our very first episode.
Well, I mean, that actually brings me around to a very important point that we've not mentioned so far, Stu.
Ah, yes.
What number episode are we recording right now?
I think it might be number 100.
I think it is number 100. This is the 100th episode. We have reached our century. We are raising our bats in the air. We are saluting the crowd. Here's to 100 episodes of It'll Be Alright in the 90s.
I'll drink to that. Here's to 100 more.
So many episodes. We're apparently forgetting what we've talked about and repeating ourselves.
Well, it had to happen at some point. I'm just glad we got to treble figures before it did happen. Maybe it's happened again and again, and we just don't know. This is the first time that that it's come to pass. But no, that's excellent, mate. 100 episodes. Really pleased to have got this far with you. Like I say, we started this one back in May, June 2021. So we're over sort of 4 years in now. But to get over 100 episodes in 4 years is a fantastic achievement, I think, even though I say so myself. So yeah, really pleased to have done it with you.
Amen. Amen. I can't think of a better person, a more knowledgeable and affable and better suited person to do 100 episodes of a
Ah,
90s nostalgia podcast with. So,
well, the same goes. I'm very pleased.
time now for what's the most 90s. And we are going back to the world of fashion, Stu. What is the most 90s shoe?
This is one of the categories that I didn't have to think about too hard to come up with a most 90s shoe. It's not a shoe I ever owned, but I felt it was omnipresent during the decade, specifically for my time at primary school, secondary school. I've gone for the Kickers school shoe. although I was a bootleg man myself, as we previously discussed. But the kicker school shoes, specifically with the green tag on one shoe and the red tag on another shoe, with massive soles, standard 90s school uniform wear. Like I say, I was never cool enough to, or lucky enough to own a pair. They also, those huge kickers jumpers were really in fashion too for a
Hmm.
time, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Did you
Yeah.
ever have one of those?
I didn't know. I didn't, but everyone had them at school.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we both were not cool enough to own any kickers merchandise, it would appear.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Very much a Clark's own brand over here.
I think I might have had a kickers shirt at some point, like an actual button-up shirt with a little
Hmm.
kickers tag on it,
Yeah.
which I felt pretty cool when I was wearing. But no, I've not really got a lot to say about this. My personal favourite shoe. I've not really got a lot more to say about this, really. I think it speaks for itself. My own personal favourite shoe of the 90s that I owned was the grey Adidas Savage trainer, which I'll dig up a picture of and put on the social so that everybody can see what I'm talking about. They were my favourite actual trainer to wear of the 90s. I really love those, and they lasted for a long time for me just because I love them so much. But yeah, it's a real straight down the line choice. I'm sure a lot of listeners will agree. The Kickers Smart School Shoe.
Excellent choice. Yeah. I had two ideas that came to my head straight away, and I thought you would have one of them, and it was kickers. That was my second choice. My first choice was the other big one from the 90s, which I'm sure loads of people will have thought of. It's the official shoe of girl power. It's the Buffalo. Such a unique style with that massive sole. As I say, the official footwear of girl power, and the Spice Girls made this shoe more famous than anyone else. They were all over the place in the 90s, and I know they've had a bit of a revival, as so much of 90s fashion has. So that's why I've gone for it. I also don't have a huge amount to say, the same as you, because I think they just speak for themselves.
Mhm.
And yeah, quite a good sort of counterbalance to the kickers, really. They just go hand in hand. It was the era of the big soul, wasn't it? The chunky soul.
Definitely, definitely. Well, we're actually very lucky on this episode tonight, aren't we? Because not only do we have our own opinions to rely on, but we also have the opinion of the pod fashion expert, friend of the pod, legend of the pod, Kate Pro, has been kind enough to send in a few thoughts on this subject. So let's hear what she has to say.
Hi, Alex and Stu. Thank you for having me back on It'll Be All Right in the 90s for another fashion segment. Which is the most 90s shoe? I actually think it would be really nice to put this to the audience as well. But the shoes that spring to my mind for 90s fashion are Buffaloes, number one. Had some, loved them, inspired by the Spice Girls, of course. I think they are hugely 90s because of what they represent, girl power. I think you see them and think of the Spice Girls. I think coming in second is probably a Kickers school shoe, either the flat one or the heeled one with the tags left on. These were all the rage, weren't they? The Kickers school shoe, the red and I think it was red and green label, wasn't it? The little kind of tag. You've got the bigger tag that hangs off the lace, but then a small rectangular tag. They were very 90s. And I think you spend half your life at school, don't you? My daughter the other day said she was really vexed at being at school the majority of her time, not at home. So I think that stands out also because of the amount of time you spend in them. Very 90s. Very 90s in style. Pretty cool, I think. And I think my third choice would be a Timberland boot. Do you remember Timberlands? I also had all of these. Classic sand for the Timberland boot. Obviously massive in the hip hop kind of scene that was coming through, R&B and hip hop of the 90s. So I think they are my three top picks. However, I'm going to give a little nod to the very 90s basketball kind of shoe, the massive, bubbly, like Jordan type things that say air across them. But yes, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, please.
Well, Alex, that's quite spooky, isn't
Yes,
it?
it just says so much, doesn't it? That these were the two big choices. But I'm also glad that she gave a mention to the Timberlands,
hmm
sort of the desert boot. Really makes me think of 90s hip hop, especially Wu Tang and DMX. I can really picture East Coast rappers, especially wearing these, which obviously made them very cool. So yeah, three great choices, and also a mention for Nike Air. there's so many trainers, aren't there, that are very 90s. But if we're going to have to pick one or two, I mean, surely we've got to put both kickers and buffaloes in. It's got to be a joint one, surely.
I think we have kickers for business, buffaloes for party, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, definitely. Just slightly off topic, you mentioned Wu-Tang there, just before we leave this topic behind.
Hmm.
Were you aware that they collaborated with Texas in the late 90s? This has just gone past on the top of the Pops Repeats.
Yes, I was aware. Yeah, a very odd choice. I don't know quite how that came about, whether it was Charlene or Ghostface Killer who first suggested it, um, but there you go, just one of those oddities of 90s chart music.
And how highly is that collaboration regarded by Wu-Tang fans in the sort of entire canon? If you look at it as a whole, where does that rank?
I think it's probably somewhere in between Bring the Ruckus and The Mystery of Chess Boxing.
I'll have to take your word for that. Did they make an album where like only one person could buy it? Is that right? It was one
Yeah,
copy of it.
they made a single copy album, which was then purchased by Martin Skrettel or whatever his name is, that deeply unpleasant
Oh, the former
businessman.
Liverpool centre half.
No. I'm mispronouncing his name, probably conflating it with that centre half, but it's that horrible pharmaceutical CEO who bought the right to some cancer drug and then boosted the price by
Oh, that
800%
guy. Oh
overnight. Yeah.
dear. Okay.
And then ended up going to prison. So he unfortunately bought it. And then I don't know where it is now, but it was,
Mhm.
I know it's a bone of contention for every other member of the Wu-Tang Clan other than the RZA, whose idea it was.
This time on the show, we're putting together another 90s time capsule for a returning guest. And what a returning guest we have for you this time. Making his usual summer holidays appearance with us on the podcast. I don't think he's a silly little rich cow, but since when has what I thought ever mattered? It's Midget frontman Richard Gombault. Richard, how are you tonight, mate?
Good to be back. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. And straight off the back of being on holiday yourself as well. So we really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay, so as usual for our time capsule format, we've got 5 things to go in your 90s time capsule to preserve for all time, and 1 thing to leave behind. So let's go straight into it. What's your first thing that you'd like to preserve from the decade?
All right, my first thing I would like to preserve or bring back maybe the 90s skate punk scene. All of the bands, the culture, the clothing, just the attitude of it. It seemed like it wasn't what punk had been before, and it's certainly not what punk has gone on to become. I think even as early as probably the late 90s, really, you had a lot of drive-through bands, and it's things like uh, starting point, starting line, brand new, newfound glory. You know, those kinds of bands. It just seemed so much more watered down, you know, not quite as much energy. There certainly wasn't the attitude. So I'm really talking about bands like No Effects, Lagwagon, Millen Collins, Strung Out, No Use for a Name, 88 Fingers Louie, Pulley, like these ringing any bells?
A couple of them are, yeah, but
Right.
specifically from the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack, I would say.
Yeah, probably. A lot of, you know, Fat Records, Epitaph, Burning Heart, you know, those labels, they were just, you know, manna from heaven. I think when I started getting into that kind of punk, it was, you know, Green Day was the entry point, wasn't it? First time I heard them, it was, you know, just a perfect genre of music. It was fast, it had energy. I love the kind, you know, the chugging guitars, but you know, really catchy melodies. The videos were great as well. I think I saw Green Day's first gig in the UK. It was at Cambridge Junction, and China Drum actually supported that gig. So it's a
Mm.
brilliant night. And I think they'd either just brought out Welcome to Paradise or Basket Case, one of the two, can't remember. But you know, just what a band! And it was so well done. It was slick. It was simple, but it was perfect. And from there, I then started to discover a lot of the Fat Wreck bands. You know, things like No Effects and No Fun at All. Kind of they were a Swedish band on Burning Heart. Lagwagon as well. That kind of thing where there was just this attitude of, you know, music should be fun. You know, it should be enjoyable to play and it should be enjoyable to listen to. And the style that went with it, you know, the sort of the big shirts, the big shorts, wallet chains, spiky hair, you know, all of that. I was just all over it. Absolutely loved it. And it hadn't been like that before. I think, the kind of Southern California punk scene, it was a lot harder edged, I think, earlier on. Probably Bad Religion with the band that really kind of started that crossover. Offspring and No Effects obviously around at the same time as well. And then, like I say, after that scene, it just seemed to be so much more watered down, and the emphasis was much more on pop rather than the punk. I think it lost a lot there. So I think those 90s bands, that kind of that early incarnation of Fat Records and those early California skate punk bands, that's what I need to bring that back or preserve. Sorry, that's the idea, isn't it? To preserve it in the
Yeah, well, sometimes we have to bring them back to preserve them because, yeah. Do you know what the scene is like now for skate punk? Has it sort of come back at all?
I don't know, honestly. I'm not sure that even skateboarding is seen as that alternative. I think it's far more mainstream now. It's something that kids just do, and it's kind of separate from the music. It's the way it seems to me. I could be totally, but I'm well out of touch. I've no idea what the kids do these days.
Well, that makes three of us, I think.
I'm not sure what skaters listen to now. I'm often interested because I think a lot of music that I love and a lot of the fashion that I love comes from skate culture, even though I'm not a skater myself and I never skated, but I do love a lot of the music. And
Yeah.
I've always wondered whether, yeah, kids who skate now are still listening to skate punk or are they listening to just completely different genres? But for me, the only band that I really listen to who I think fall into skate punk would be early Blink 182, who I think started out as a skate punk band
Yeah.
with like the Fly Swatter EP and Cheshire Cat and a bit of Dude Ranch as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I,
definitely.
I only relatively recently, got into those early albums and realized how amazing they were. And I loved that. Like you said, the energy that then sort of dissipated and became more pop and hooks
Yeah.
focused in the late 90s and early 2000s. But that early stuff just, yeah, I really love that early skate punk sound.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as well, it was that idea of being antisocial, but not in a kind of political way. It was more about, it was almost like Jackass, wasn't it? Going around just being stupid, like doing ridiculous things. I do miss that. I don't get to do that so much these days as a primary school teacher.
Well, I've got one Lagwagon song in my collection, which is their version of the Cheers theme tune,
Oh,
which,
okay.
which I which I came across on some file sharing site years and years ago, and I've always kept hold of it just because I thought it was
Yeah,
great.
nice. There was a
And
band Bigwig that did that as well. Do we do the same one? Sometimes you want to go where everyone knows your name.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Fantastic. As well. It's brilliant.
Well, that's an excellent first choice, Richard. Totally on board with that. Totally got my backing. What's your second choice?
My second choice is physical formats. So things that actually exist in a physical form. So I'm talking CDs, DVDs, owning actual copies. I'm a little bit of a dinosaur, bit kind of set in my ways, so I still have hundreds and hundreds of CDs. And I find it helpful to choose. I'm not a fan of the whole, Spotify streaming platforms and stuff, because you never actually own anything. It's only there for as long as you subscribe, and what happens if the platform goes down. I don't enjoy that side to it at all. I like to have that whole shelves full of CDs. Just let my eyes wander over that. Oh, I can listen to that today. Let's have a bit of Fugazi today. Why not? And I don't know how you choose. Like if you've got Spotify or whatever it might be, do you just sit there like scrolling through it all? I don't know. Just I can't see any satisfaction from that. You don't physically own anything. Same with DVDs as well. I think it says a lot about you as a person. What you value. What films you enjoy, what music you like to listen to. It's kind of there on display, and it's kind of you as a person, as a personality. I like that physical form, and I think there's a reassurance and reliability about having a CD. I am a Luddite. I appreciate that times have moved on and people like to own their media in different ways, but it's not for me. And to be honest, I think you could also spill into photos. It's the same deal. Who has photo albums these days? Like everyone has it. It's all on their phones. It's on their iPads or whatever. It's on the cloud, whatever that really means. And you've probably seen, as I have, a lot of bands used to have this kind of photo collage bit in the inlay of their albums.
Yeah.
Years and years of touring and all the different characters and what have you. And I would sit poring over those. I used to love that. And we had one for individual. No, was it? I think it was individual and consistent. Like we did our own version for the Midget. And you pick up a photo album and it kind of suggests time, care, and effort has been taken into creating those things and putting them together. And again, it doesn't seem to be the same level of value in just having it all on a phone. You can now take thousands of photos. There's no real skill in taking the photo because you can take so many. It doesn't matter if it's a bad photo. To be honest, it's difficult to take a bad photo because the phone does everything for you. So because everyone's an expert, no one actually has any real skill anymore. That's kind of the way it feels to me. And again, it's that culture of instant gratification. There's no kind of deferment of that. Everyone, they need to have things now, immediately, and as much of it as possible. And the current generation will never know the pleasure and pain of taking in your film to get it developed at Boots, and then you've got to wait however long it might be to get it back, and then there's that moment when your prints are handed to you and you get them out of the shop and you just sit and thumb through them. There was a lot of pleasure in that, and I think we've lost that as well. So that's my second choice: physical format, so photos, film, and music.
Well, I think I speak for us both when I say we couldn't agree more. One of the big things on the pod recently is I discovered a film at my parents' house from 1996 which had never been developed. So
wow.
I went through and got it sorted, and it was some photos of a holiday from 1995, I think, actually. So yeah, the best before date on the film was 96, but the photos were actually from 95. So it was lovely to see those again. And like you say, these sorts of things just aren't around anymore, are they? And I've got loads of CDs still, some of which I've had for a long time. There are still certain bands who, when they release a new album, I will still always buy it on CD. And I've bought most of these albums over again on vinyl as well, as that's come into things. So yeah, definitely, I'm a physical media guy, same as you, and that won't surprise anybody who's listening, I'm sure.
Excellent. And I know these things are quite often cyclical as well. So it may be that it comes back. I know that tapes, I think cassette tapes are actually making a little bit of a reappearance at the moment. I'm not too fussed about tapes because I think CDs are the best format to listen to. And I know people previously to that would have said vinyl as well. That's got that sort of warmth to it, but I like the clarity of the CD. So I don't think we need cassette tapes. Let's leave that way.
No, I don't think it'd be tolerated in this household if I started collecting cassette tapes as well.
No, wouldn't that be the real kicker? You buy something on cassette tape, and then they bring CDs out. Sound quality is far much better. So then you upgrade it to a CD, and then MP3s was a thing for a little while, wasn't it? Or something simple, and then you'll pay for it on Spotify, and then cassettes come out. You end up buying it for a second.
In 3 years' time, it'll be wax cylinder.
I think the most nostalgic of all the physical media in the way that it looks as an object might be the cassette tape, though, for me anyway. Like I also don't have cassette tapes, and I'm much more of a CD person, but the cassette tape, like to hold that and the sound of that sort of plasticky noise, I think is the most nostalgic for me. But I'm also a big collector, so I still have as many CDs as I can physically own. I've had to have a few culls just because of moving house, and I wish I didn't have to do that, but there's only so many things you can carry with you.
Haven't we got any storage at the podcast facility? Surely we could get that sorted out.
We got a big yellow storage unit somewhere in the West Midlands, but I think it's filled up with Jeff's manila folders of God knows what.
Yeah. We can't be any more specific than that with a location, can we? Just
No, we can't.
There seems to be some kind of like feng shui rule that if you haven't used something or worn something in 6 months, throw it out because you're not going to use it. Or I can't do that. I mean, Christ, there's music that I haven't listened to for years, but I know one day I'm going to go back to it. That's the beauty of music for me. And you go through phases, you go through little stages, and then all of a sudden one day, I haven't listened to that for ages. Let's whack it on, and you rediscover it in a completely new way. And like you hear things that you maybe didn't get on the first 100 listens, and it takes you back to a place as well.
Yeah, totally. And we also lose album art. That just goes, by the wayside when you don't have physical music. You may get a very small little JPEG on your Spotify screen when an album's playing, but you don't get the liner notes, you don't get those photo collages, and all those the lyric sheets and everything. I think that's such a crime to lose that artwork, and also with music, especially the art form of the album. If people are just listening to stuff on shuffle or they're just listening to like curated playlists, you're not listening to the album and the way that it was designed to be heard, which is, in a sequence. And I think that's just another great loss, basically.
Oh, I remember the hours that we spent poring over the potential track listings for Jukebox, especially because that was such an eclectic album, so many different styles on there. What do we want people to hear first, and what that should lead into, and what should be the album closer? These are decisions that bands make, and the whole the shuffle thing is just completely scrapped that. Songs aren't always written to be listened to out of context. Sometimes they are part of a larger picture and need to be listened to as such.
don't forget, listeners, that Midget's entire back catalogue is now available on Amazon Music and all other streaming sites, but do make sure you listen to it in order.
Yes, just some of it.
So your next choice has quite an intriguing title, and this is probably the one I've been looking forward to most on the list. You want to put football mysteries in your time capsule.
Okay, right. So football mysteries. It feels like with the advent of the Premier League coming in the early 90s, I think was it 92, 93, it was probably the first Premier League season. Gradually the game just became ubiquitous. You still can't move. There's always a game on of some description. And while that's brilliant, and we get to see so much more of our teams on the telly if we can't get to the games. I can't get an Arsenal ticket for love nor money. It's impossible. Well, and his wife is an Arsenal fan these days, which is kind of annoying, but at least it means we're doing well. So I'll have it both ways. But anyway, with the advent of Sky and the money that's pumped into it, we became so much more better versed at knowing other leagues as well. The Spanish league, Italian league, and when it comes around to a World Cup or a Euros or Champions League now, we know all these players. We've seen them virtually every week in the Champions League or Europa League, whatever it might be. We know the players. They tend to play. If the South Americans or whatever, they'll be over at Real Madrid or Barca or even in the Premier League, and it feels as if we lost a little bit of our innocence, maybe. So back in the earlier 90s, you would have players that you'd heard of. They had these huge reputations, but you've not really seen them play. And I might be going a little bit far back if I'm thinking about players like Ruud Gullit, Maradona, perhaps. But certainly once you got into the 90s, the original Ronaldo, the Brazilian one. And there was a great Romanian team at the 94 World Cup, and they get you by surprise because you don't know these players. And now, of course, any player worth their salt that's at the top of their game, we've seen them, we know them, and we've already kind of pegged their teams. We know Portugal are going to be a decent team. Obviously Spain are going to be great, but there have been decent Danish teams in the past, and they kind of took us by surprise. The archetypal dark horses of the tournament. And I think we've kind of lost that now. We don't have any dark horses. I think a while ago, it might have been the 2006 World Cup, Ivory Coast dark horses. Sakura, I think he was at Spurs at the time, and Drogba, of course, at Chelsea. It's like, how are they dark horses? Like we know these players all already. Do you see what I mean? I think we've lost a bit of innocence there.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, I'll go back to Euro 96 and seeing lots of players play in that tournament for the first time and then almost immediately coming to the Premier League. So I suppose I'm thinking
Yeah.
in particular of Karol Poborski, who I don't think
Oh yeah,
anybody
yeah.
knew anything about. And then he had a great tournament for the Czech Republic in
Yeah,
that
with that
tournament.
goal
And
in the
then
semi, wasn't
immediately,
it? The lob over who were they playing? Portugal maybe at the time?
I think it was Denmark. I think it was it Schmeichel that he lobbed? No, that was Davor Suker. Sorry, that was yeah,
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 I
yeah,
remember that one. Oh yeah, I
yeah.
mean that Croatia team as well.
Mm.
So you look at those names on paper, wow. But they kind of were dark horses at the time. Didn't really know their team at all, but they all went on to be absolute superstars.
Mm.
We had Schuker at Arsenal for a couple of seasons. I think it's a little bit past his best at the time, but
Mm-hmm.
still some touch. Hell of a player.
Definitely, definitely. And yes, so many came out of that tournament. Like I think Di Matteo signed for Chelsea on the back of playing for Italy in that tournament and a couple of others. And when you compare it, as you say, to how things are done now, my team, Villa, signed a new striker in the last few days, and I've already seen graphics and stats on how this striker compares to Ollie Watkins in every single area of his game. Like how does Ollie
Right.
do in one-on-ones? How does this striker do in one-on-ones? All this. And you're right,
Yeah,
it just takes the romance out of it completely, doesn't it?
death by data.
Well, it's the YouTube highlights, isn't it? Like these are the best
Mm.
goals from such and such player from the Danish Pro League or whatever. So you can find out even before you sign the player when there's rumors, these videos will go around. So yeah, I fully agree with this one as well. Something we've talked about a few times, isn't it, Stu? The fact that there are no surprises anymore, and that there aren't these big names that suddenly emerge in a big tournament, and it's a real shame. As with the first time we did this time capsule with Teresa a few episodes ago, we think it's a good idea to almost mask the negative with all the positive. So we're going to chuck in the one negative point from this list halfway through. So, Richard, what one element of the 90s would you prefer to leave back in the 90s where it belongs?
I'm consigning dance music to the 90s, and by that I'm not talking about things like disco or funk, that kind of thing. That had its inherent qualities. I'm talking really about the advent of things like techno, house, clubbing music. Really, the very simple reason that it's absolute crap. It has, in my mind, it's not music. It's just a rhythm, and that's all it is. It's music. It's nursery rhymes for morons, and they seem to be utterly convinced of its genius. They say, "Oh, tune, mate, tune." Like it's not. It's not a tune. It's a rhythm. It has no artistic value. It's rubbish. If you think about the best musicians in the world, and that could be guitarists, pianists, classical musicians. Guess what? They don't play dance music, and there's a very simple reason for that, which I've already mentioned. It's dreadful, and the thing that annoys me most about it is the people that really listen to it. They have to put it on so loud. I mean, I like to listen to music loud, but I'm quite aware that not everyone wants to hear my taste in music. So if I've got it on in the car, I'll have the windows up. At home, I'll stick headphones on. I like loud music, but I think I've got enough about me to realise that not everybody likes the same things, and I wouldn't expect people to like the same thing as me as I do, and I don't want them to like the same things that I do either. But these morons that like pump out their dance music, you know the stuff I'm talking about, don't you? And it's just incessant, it's monotonous, it's moronic, and I hate it. I've had enough of it. I wish it had just stayed in the 90s, because it's gone on way too long now. It's like, can we just please give it a rest, guys? It's bad music. I'm glad I've got that off my chest.
Well, we're pleased to provide the forum for that. And I can tell you that my dad is going to be very, very pleased with your summation of that. He will be in complete agreement.
Well, I'm no great fan of dance music myself, so I'm not going to provide much of defense. Although I would say the era of dance music that I am most on board with probably is from the 90s, where it was quite poppy and there was sort of trance and that style of music. But now, I mean, it's so popular now. So many people of my generation are just all over it. And it was sort of around the early or the late 2000s when drum and bass and dubstep, especially in Bristol, where I'm living now, just was everywhere. And that seems to have just stuck around. And now there's no guitar music at all. This is just all electronic of some, vague variation. And I also find it hard to kind of comprehend. I know there's obviously a strong late night scene around it, and it's definitely the dance, it's definitely the music genre where drugs are a big part of that scene. And that, I guess, that is one of the reasons why it is so popular, that sort of, repetitiveness and rhythm. But I don't know why people drive around in the middle of the day listening to drum and bass. I can't get my head around that. That just seems odd to me.
Maybe something to exercise to, maybe it's got the right sort of BPM, right kind of speed for the treadmill or what. I don't know. But yeah, if I'm out running, I run in 5/4. Everyone's got their own breathing patterns. However many you breathe out for and breathe in for, and so on. And I do that in 5/4. So I run around in my head to the theme tune for Mission Impossible. Which is pretty nice actually. It makes me feel pretty cool as I'm running around the mean streets of Bournemouth.
I didn't realize that was a thing. I mean, I don't enjoy running, but I do it in order to try and stay alive a bit longer.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
next time I'm out, I might try and do it in 7/4. I might go for Money by Pink Floyd. See how that goes.
Get a bit of Mastodon on there as well. Really insane time signatures.
Well, maybe I'll leave that for when I'm a little bit more advanced with the technique.
Yeah, or Tool.
Lateralis by Tool is for like the peak runner.
Yeah. Experimental one.
5K in 9 minutes. Okay, well, that is dance music consigned to stay in the 90s and not gaining entry to the time capsule. We'll move on then to the last couple of things which are going to move into the time capsule. And we're sort of following on from physical formats, really, with your next choice, which is mixtapes, which is another thing that we've spoken about before on the pod. In fact, I think Teresa might have picked this as well, mightn't she?
Oh, did she? Oh,
Yeah, I think this is a popular choice for the time capsule. Yeah.
Yeah, well, clearly, I think if you know, you know. Like if you've made mixtapes or had them made for you, like it's such a personalized thing, and again, it takes time to do it. To think about the genres that you want on it, the bands that you want on it, the styles, the specific tracks, short songs, long songs, fast songs, slow, all the rest of it. Coming up with your own running order. It's almost like fancy football, isn't it? You can literally pick any song in your CD collection or what have you, and make your own compilation tape. It's kind of an I wish list, if you like, isn't it? That kind of if I was going to put out a compilation record, this is what it would be, and you would end up making them for specific people, for specific purposes, a particular journey. And again, we've lost that because it's so easy to do it. It's a playlist now, isn't it, on Spotify or any of the streaming sites. You could even get AI to do it. Say, I would like a compilation album, include these styles, this many tracks, and it's done it for you in like a second. And AI is great because it does so much and is capable of. Well, who knows at the moment, quite frankly. I think Pandora's box is open. We don't quite know where AI is going to take us, but it is incredible. It's a fantastic tool to have. But we are in danger of it replacing a lot of human creativity if we're not careful. And I think that would be a tremendous shame. And I think mixtapes is kind of at the heart of that because there's a personality to a mixtape. There's something that you've put time into, care, effort, thought, all the rest of it. And we are going to lose that if we're not careful. AI is just going to take over.
Did you ever make them to go in the tour van or the tour bus when you were out on the road in the late 90s?
Oh, we did. Yeah. Mine didn't get very near the tape deck. It was normally Lee's car, and we seemed to have Polythene by Feeder and the first Ben Folds 5 record. And there was Three Colours Red one as well. That seems to be on pretty heavy, heavy rotation. But I used to love making mixtapes. I really used to enjoy that. You know, so I know what had been on previous mixtapes, so you know, I'm not going to put that on there again. Yeah, again, who you're making the mixtape for, you know, what you think they're going to take from it. You know, I think they really appreciate this track and so on. When was the last time you made a mixtape?
Well, for me, I mean, it would have been when my dad's car had a tape player, so I used to make them up for then all the time. When we used to go and watch a lot of non-league football in the late '90s. So I used to make them up for those trips to away grounds. And I remember the absolute epiphany when either I found out or somebody told me that if I just pressed the pause button, I wouldn't get that clunk in between songs. But if you press stop instead of pause, and that just completely changed the game.
Crossfade.
Yeah, having poor editing skills, which have transferred over into my life producing this podcast.
I tell you what's great about mixtapes though, like once you'd made it, you know, you knew you had your running order and your track listing and what have you, but then you'd forget. And there was that first listen that the mixtape would get. You go, oh, I forgot to put this on there. Oh, brilliant. Used to love that.
Yeah.
Guess what? There wasn't any dance music on it.
Yeah, I was a prolific mixtape maker myself, so very much on board with this. Loads of compilations. I remember having it was my first new metal compilation. Probably actually would have been the beginning of the 2000s actually, but I remember I listened to it so much that I sort of started to expect certain songs to follow other songs.
Yeah.
So it was a mix of artists, but I would sort of say Faith by Limp Bizkit, I would expect to follow like My Own Summer by Deftones, and they would go together so well, almost better than the albums themselves because I listened to that tape so much. But I mean, I was still making mixtapes on CD in the mid 2000s before everyone got MP3 players. So yeah, I was still making them quite late because I loved the art of it, the artistry and the passion, like you say, Richard. Just the identity of it was just so good.
Nice. And you'd also do that thing where you didn't quite manage to cut it off in time. So you get like a split second of the next track. And you still hear that now, like when you listen to the actual album. I always remember there was one by the Chili Peppers. I can't remember what song it must be. It was probably Under the Bridge that I put on a compilation. And it goes straight into what might be Naked in the Rain.
Absolutely correct. Yeah. That Chad Smith drum intro for Naked in the Rain. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. See, I'm telling you, Alex, that people want more Chili Peppers on this podcast. He's been resisting, but I'm trying to wear him down.
Well, I go up as well. It's pretty much Blood Sugar, to be honest. I think that's my go-to Chili's album. I thought after that they just started to lose it a bit. But yeah, the energy on Blood Sugar is brilliant album. So well produced, like the sound of it. And I play along to that album. Like, you know, if I get my Strat out, I'm a Les Paul guy through and through, but just occasionally, if I get the Strat out, I've got to play along to Chili's.
Oh, fantastic. Sounds good to me. But just one final point on mixtapes, of course, is that if we're bringing mixtapes back, by proxy, we have to bring cassette tapes back. And that was what we were talking about trying to avoid doing earlier on. So there you go. It's one feeds the other.
All right, we'll bring tapes back then.
Yes, all right.
Well, so far you're on 100% as far as I'm concerned, Richard. You've got one choice left. Let's see if you can make it a full house.
I'd be surprised if this wasn't allowed in. So I'm going for 90s pub culture. And you'll tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels like the 90s was when all day drinking or all day opening hours was introduced. So I seem to remember sort of earlier 90s, probably up to about 94, 95 maybe. But pubs would be open 11 till 3, and then they'd close and reopen again at 7 till 11. And that was your lot, which was fine, you know, like for the evening shift, if you like. You know, you knew exactly how much time you had, and you know, you'd make sure you got your last orders in on time. But you know, once all day drinking hours were introduced, it was just a total game changer. I remember the first time that I actually did it. It was Lee and I that were in the pub in Stamford, and we had an interview. So it's a Peterborough paper. Interviewed us in the afternoon. You know, we had a few drinks and just decided to carry on. And so, still going at chucking out time. It's just that realization, like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, we can do all day now. And the whole culture seemed to change. I don't know. It seemed, just to go to the pub and, games that you played. We used to have this game called Spoof. Did you ever hear of it?
I have played Spoof in the past. Yes, absolutely.
You know the one. So you've got 3 coins and you can hold them out in front of you in any combination. You might even have 0 coins in there, and then everyone has to guess how many coins are actually held out. And lose does a forfeit. That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, these games used to go on for hours and hours, and some of the forfeits that I ended up being really sick because my forfeit was to eat a flower, which surprisingly didn't go down very well. We didn't stay down anyway.
Oh, well, that could have been a lot worse, actually, when you said I was very sick because my forfeit was. And I was just wondering what it was you were going to say, but I suppose eating a flower is more on the acceptable side of pub forfeits, if there is such a thing.
Yeah, and what else do we have? Oh, there was a darts game that we used to play called Killer. And if you get enough of you, like, it's just awesome. Everyone puts their money in, throw a dart with your own hand, and whatever it ends up in, that's your number, and you have to hit yourself 3 times. Then you've got killer status, and then you get to hit other people's numbers and knock them off. And again, if you've got enough people there, this game can last hours. And I remember one game. It was a Champions League final, actually, a bit after the 90s. I think this was 2005. In fact, it was the Istanbul final, Liverpool 8 to Milan. We had a massive sweepstake on, I think it was first goal scorer, which obviously no one had Maldini after however many seconds it was. So we just had this pot of money and no one to claim it. So we ended up having this massive game of Killer. It went on for hours. And no one's that great at darts playing, certainly not after drunk the amount that we've been drinking. But I just suddenly threw like the best hand of darts I've ever thrown in my life and ever will throw again. I was going for my mate Dean's number, and I hit double, and then it hit the treble, but it hit the wire, and the dart rebounded and landed in the top of his foot, and he's wearing flip flops at the time. He's going, do I take it out? Do I leave it in? Do I take it out? Do I leave it in? And that was me winning the money. That was quite the night.
That's a second story in about 2 minutes where it hasn't gone where I've expected it to go. And the tar ended up in the top of his foot. Oh, well, no, that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's got to go in.
But it seems like, nowadays, like kids think they'd rather be in the gym. Genuinely, they seem to have this big kind of like healthy focus. I mean, what's up with that?
Oh, I know. Society's going to hell in a handcart, isn't it? Yeah. It really is. Well, that concludes another excellent 90s time capsule with another excellent returning guest. Rich, we can't thank you enough for spending your time with us tonight to talk through those. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. Before we go, a quick word on the big Midget reunion gig in October. How are things looking?
Yeah, really looking forward to it. We've got our first rehearsal booked for the end of this month, and we should be recording a new track, actually. So I better dust off the guitar and write one.
Oh, fantastic.
We've got some studio time booked, and the day after that, we're going to do some rehearsals in Leeds. Got another rehearsal booked in Peterborough as well. So all set for the big game is it the 18th of October? I really should know this.
We'll put the link up to the tickets and the date up, of course, on the episode description. Many tickets still available?
A handful are still left. Yep. So make sure you get your hands on those.
Wonderful. It's going to be the gig of the year. Make sure you go and see Midget up in Stamford in October. Rich, as always, like I say, an absolute pleasure, and we hope you can come back very soon to talk to us about something else from the 90s. Thanks very much, mate.
Pleasure will be mine. Cheers.
Well, yet another excellent 90s time capsule in the new series. First Teresa, now Rich. We're going to look to get some more of our favourite guests back over the coming weeks and months to put their 90s time capsules together. I really enjoy having Rich on the podcast. He's ace, isn't he?
Yeah, he's fantastic. And it's great to have someone who was so active on the music scene in the late 90s when I was and you were getting into music so much. So yeah, if anyone hasn't listened to the episode we did with him a few months ago, do go back and listen, because it's a really interesting insight into what it was like to be in a band that was making it big in the late 90s.
Definitely. And as we said, if you happen to be in the Stamford area in October and you want to go and see Rich and Midget in action, do go and snap up those last few tickets for their big reunion gig because it's going to be brilliant.
If you have any thoughts on any of Richard's, is it okay for me to do this?
Yeah, no, please.
Yes. Uh, if you have any thoughts on any of Richard's choices, or you want to let us know what's in your time capsule, then please do get in touch in the usual way. That is through our link tree, which is in the episode description below. You'll find our Instagram on there, our email address, our YouTube, all the places where we reside online. And yeah, do get in contact with anything you'd like to tell us about.
Please do. We love hearing from you. And don't forget to send in your most 90s photos as well in our new competition. We need to get your entries in for that. We'd love to see them.
Yes, well remembered, Stu. Your most nostalgic 90s photos. It's an ongoing competition, so do send them in. We'd love to see them and yeah, share them on our Instagram.
As per usual, we're not entirely sure what we're going to be talking about next time, but what we are sure about is that it's going to be another fine episode of It'll Be Alright in the 90s. So we look forward to getting back together with you then. Until next time, thanks so much for listening. It's goodbye from me. I'm just off to get stuck into Ian Butterworth's autobiography, Ghostwritten by Alex Greenwood.
And it's goodbye from me. I'm just off to start writing it.
Ta-ta for now.
Bye.
Hello everybody, Stu here, back in the edit suite. It was only after we finished putting this episode together that Jeff gave us the rather inevitable news that we were unable to clear the new reimagined version of I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. So he's asked me to pop back in and illustrate the point in a more affordable way for you. Yeah. You are my fire, the one desire. Believe when I say I want it that way. Now we are two worlds apart, can't reach to your heart. When you say I want it that way, tell me why it ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why it ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it that way, 'cause I want it that way. Ah, Kevin would be proud.